Disney World is revving up some huge changes at Magic Kingdom that are both controversial and starting sooner than I expected. Let's take a road trip into the future of Magic Kingdom in this episode of Future World. Hi, I'm James from Guide to WDW, and welcome back to Future World, the series where I read way too deep into every little detail Disney announces to give you a glimpse into the future of Disney's worlds. And today we're driving deep into what has proven to be one of the most controversial changes Disney has ever announced: the Cars expansion of Frontierland that replaces Rivers of America. Disney just released a lot of juicy information, so it's time to zoom, enhance, and of course read way too deep into every little detail, because this updated concept art has me making a U-turn about how I feel about the whole thing. So let's shift into gear about all the updates coming to Frontierland, starting with the near term, what's closing and when. Then I'll cover all the new details that were just revealed about the Cars expansion and why I now feel different. And then we'll take a detour into the speculation zone, with my patented bold prediction that's guaranteed to be true or your money back, about when this expansion could be opening. Let's dive in, starting with the big news about closures. To get everyone up to speed, at last year's D23, Josh D'Amaro revealed that a brand new Cars land would be coming to Magic Kingdom's Frontierland. Not a clone of the Radiator Springs Cars land, but an original land set in the American West, featuring two attractions: a rally race ride in the vein of Radiator Springs Racers, and an attraction that younger kids could enjoy. Most people just assumed that this new land was going to be placed beyond Big Thunder, but the controversy started shortly after D23 when Disney Parks blog released concept art revealing that Cars would be replacing Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America. And this concept art made it look like that the rivers would be completely filled in. There's been a vocal fan outcry about such a radical change to a part of Magic Kingdom that's been there since 1971. Let's fast forward to last week, when Disney revealed new details about the Frontierland overhaul, including the last day of operation for Tom Sawyer Island and Rivers of America, which is Sunday, July 6th. That will be your last chance to take the raft to Tom Sawyer Island, ride the Liberty Bell riverboat, and enjoy the current views of Rivers of America, because all of that will be closing on July 7th for construction for the new land to begin. This is happening much sooner than I expected. With all the other closing attractions like Muppet Vision, Dino Land, and It's Tough to Be a Bug, we've had much longer heads up for the closing date or closing timeline. Disney announced the closing date for Rivers of America about a month in advance. I actually meant to go to Tom Sawyer Island on my trip last month to take some videos and say goodbye, but I have little kids, so it just didn't happen. And I thought, oh well, I'll get it on my next trip. But apparently not. So if you're at Disney World over the next few weeks, this is your final call for Tom Sawyer Island and Liberty Bell. But what did we learn about what's replacing this piece of Magic Kingdom history? First of all, it's called Piston Peak National Park, which I had assumed was an entirely original location Imagineering made up, kind of like Batuu for Galaxy's Edge. But it turns out that Piston Peak is actually an existing location in the Cars cinematic universe, from Planes, Fire, and Rescue starring Dane Cook. Yes, we're getting a secret Planes 2 land. But I don't blame Disney for not leaning into the source material in the marketing, and honestly, Planes seems a little bit irrelevant to this land. Jack from DSNY Newscast reports that Imagineering has said that they are taking Piston Peak from the Planes movie just as a source of inspiration and a jumping off point, rather than a place that they're trying to recreate from the screen like Radiator Springs and Cars Land. I think it's more that they thought a national park setting could work well in Frontierland, and that there's already one that exists in the Cars/Planes universe with a punchy alliterative name, so they're using that. So let's talk about this new Piston Peak National Park that Disney is building in Magic Kingdom, which is inspired by the Rocky Mountain region in the western United States. Disney says to, quote, "Imagine an awe-inspiring wilderness filled with towering trees, snow-capped mountains, breathtaking waterfalls, roaring rivers, and impressive geysers." Disney released this fun map concept art that shows a lot of these details. And buckle up, because we are going to dive deep. That's what I like to do on this channel: detailed strategies for visiting the parks, special effect breakdowns, and news analysis. So get subscribed to Guide to WDW for more Disney deep dives like this. But back to the map. Let's look at how Piston Peak will fit into Frontierland. On this map, you can see Big Thunder Mountain, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Country Bear Jamboree, and interestingly, the Liberty Bell boat launch building, which was also in the first version of the concept art released last year. That would place Haunted Mansion around here. Here's my attempt at placing the new map inside the existing layout of Frontierland. It's not perfect, but it should give you a good idea of what the new layout will be. Disney notes that the trees on this side of the land will create a natural barrier with parts of Frontierland and especially Liberty Square. So you shouldn't be able to hear lightning say "ka-chow" from the line in Haunted Mansion.
Is this haunted room actually stretching?
Get it up.
From all the reporting I've seen, Imagineering seems to be taking both sightlines and noise bleed into great consideration here. Now, one thing that was either missing from the old concept art or really hard to see was all the water features. It honestly looked like a concrete jungle. But this new concept art features a lot of water features, including a, quote, calming waterway that stretches from the Liberty Square boat launch all the way to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Disney notes that you'll be able to see the mountains from Country Bear Jamboree and a series of erupting geysers from Big Thunder, the biggest being one called Old Tankful. Offhand, Disney pointed out how the geysers reminded him of Disneyland's Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, and I think that was a keen observation. This map of Piston Peak is giving me Nature's Wonderland vibes, with how diverse the landscape is. Waterfalls, trees, geysers. Each zone of the land is designed to blend in with the different biomes we see throughout Frontierland. Now let's take a closer look for what will be in the land itself. First of all, the big rally race ride. We know that it will use a similar ride system to Radiator Springs Racers or Test Track, a self-driving car moving along a track. But Imagineering is going to make the ride vehicle feel more like an ATV, so expect a bumpier, bouncier ride. And the rally race ride will wind throughout the entire land. This light yellow path appears to be the track layout, and it looks like you'll go up the mountain, through caves, and across bumpy and flooded terrain. This structure here appears to be the race finish, where the Lightning and Mater animatronics will sit. So I believe that this big visitor center building will be the entrance to the rally race ride. Makes sense for the location of the marquee attraction here. But while we're on this building, let's talk for a quick minute about parkitecture, because that is the style of architecture developed by the National Park Service to use in national parks that aims to create buildings that can exist in harmony with the natural environment. Imagineering says that all the buildings inside Piston Peak will use this parkitecture style, which should give this land a more real-world feel rather than a cartoon come to life. But obviously there will still be cartoon elements. And another detail that I learned from the DSNY newscast is that this park ranger character actually has roots in some classic Disney cartoons. This is Ranger J. Audubon Woodlore, which is a Cars version of J. Audubon Woodlore, from Disney's Humphrey the Bear cartoons that date back to the 1950s. There will be an animatronic of J. Audubon Woodlore in the line for the rally race ride. But what else will be in the land? So the second attraction, aimed for all ages, remains a mystery. I would guess it would go here, this building with the circular outdoor fence, but that's just a guess. It also wouldn't be a new Disneyland without themed dining and shopping. It feels like these two structures near the Piston Peak entrance would be good candidates for that. There's also this building back here that's shaped kinda similar to Smoke Jumper's Grill in Grizzly Peak Airfield at California Adventure, but it's really unclear if that's just part of the ride or if that area will be accessible to guests. If I were to bet, I would say it's part of the ride. Now, Disney says that Piston Peak will feature trails to explore, and it's hard to tell how extensive that will be just from this fun map. My hope is that there will be plenty to explore and discover by foot. One of the joys of national parks is the ability to wander and take in the sights, and I hope that the land is built with plenty of winding paths to evoke that feeling. Maybe some great lookout spots and even a cave or two to stumble upon. That could really give this area a Tom Sawyer Island feel. I mean, there's even barrel bridges in the concept art. That's what Disney revealed. So how did this new information change my thoughts on cars in Frontierland? And what do I think? Now, if you've been following my channel, you'll know that I've had mixed feelings at best about this expansion, which I've been lovingly referring to as the Nissan Frontierland. I know that change is inevitable at Disney World, and my take has always been that if they remove and replace a classic attraction, it needs to be worth it. A clear upgrade. Guardians of the Galaxy in New Fantasyland, totally worth it. Mission Space and the current journey into Imagination, not so much. So these things can go either way. I'm a big fan of Radiator Springs Racers at California Adventure, so I've always thought that the rally race ride will be a huge hit with guests. but I was concerned about how it would change the feel and thematic cohesion of Frontierland, especially with that initial concept art that made it look like it was all paved in. I've never been doom and gloom about it, but skeptical. But now that Disney has shared more of their plans, I'm optimistic. Like, a lot more optimistic. And as I worked on this video, I found myself noticing new things and actually getting excited about Nissan Frontierland. I know a lot of people are sad about the loss of the rivers, but to me the best part of the rivers was the view of the water as you walk through Frontierland. It's always been one of the most beautiful parts of the park, and what I was most afraid of losing. Preserving that section of the waterway should help keep that bit of Frontierland magic. And yes, Tom Sawyer Island is also tough to lose. But let's have a little honesty corner here. I always loved Tom Sawyer Island more in theory than in practice. The fact that you have to take a raft to get on and off is cool for the thematic experience, but a pain practically. I've been to Disney World countless times in my life, but only went to Tom Sawyer Island a handful of times, because it's just not convenient. Tom Sawyer Island was a big priority for me on my last trip to Disney World, and I still didn't make it over there. And depending on the extent of the trails Disney announced, there's a chance that Piston Peak will preserve some of the best parts of Tom Sawyer Island. The sense of exploration, the feeling of being in nature, the barrel bridges, while bringing some actual upgrades that could be massive. I see 3 big upgrades. First of all, navigation. Piston Peak is just going to be easier to access than Tom Sawyer Island because you can just walk in and out. It will actually improve navigating this corner of the park because there will no longer be a dead end at Tiana and Big Thunder. Frontierland will become a loop that connects Adventureland, Liberty Square, and Villains Land. This will now be a mini hub for this side of Magic Kingdom. Second of all, reading into what Imagineering is doing here, Piston Peak will actually make Frontierland more thematically cohesive. Previously, it was Old West, but not really, because Splash Mountain was set in Georgia. And I never really heard the purists complain why there's Georgia clay right next to Arizona spires from Big Thunder. Looking at how the different biomes blend together in that mine train through nature's wonderland way, I think Frontierland will feel more thematically complete by being more diverse. It's a land about the American wilderness that spans from Tennessee and Louisiana to the Rocky Mountains and Arizona. And yes, a wilderness that we have been exploring by car for a century now. And it actually makes Liberty Square better too, an area about the birth of America that leads straight into the era of American expansion. And the third upgrade, the rockwork. Disney's rockwork in recent projects has just been incredible, from Cars Land to Pandora to Galaxy's Edge. I saw Drew Smith speculate on X that Imagineer Zolt Horme will be leading the rockwork for Piston Peak, which both makes sense and would be great news, because his team was responsible for those previous projects I mentioned, as well as Fantasy Springs at Tokyo Disney Sea. Basically, his rocks rock. From everything we've seen, this land is going to feature a lot of rockwork in every corner of the land, and I think the views of the incredible rockwork and waterfalls will be an upgrade over the trees of Tom Sawyer Island. This isn't to say that anyone who is sad about the loss of the rivers of America is wrong for feeling that way. And if you're worried that this will be a downgrade, I get it. I'm just sharing why I'm now excited. Because with the rockwork, the extensive water features, and the national park setting, Piston Peak feels like it will be a combination of my 2 favorite lands at California Adventure, Cars Land and Grizzly Peak. They're just beautiful to walk through, they evoke the splendor of the natural world, and there's a really fun ride with cars that have faces. Now, it all comes down to execution, but I'm now optimistic that this will be an upgrade for Magic Kingdom. So I want to know what you think. Will this be an upgrade, or is Disney making a mistake here? Let me know in the comments. Alright, we've gone down a long and winding road. Let's park things in the speculation zone for when we can expect this land to open. Because I've been getting a lot of questions for when Cars will open at Magic Kingdom. Disney hasn't announced anything for opening timeline. But since Rivers of America closes just next month, I think it's safe to say that construction will start here very soon. Let's look back at some other Disney projects at this scale to see what we can expect from the timeline, because Disney's actually been really consistent when it comes to building new lands. Cars Land at California Adventure was announced in 2007. Construction started in July 2009, and the land opened in June 2012, a little under 3 years to build. Pandora was announced in September 2011, But groundbreaking didn't begin until January 2014, with the land opening in May 2017, about 3.5 years to build. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was announced in 2015, construction started in April 2016, and the land opened in 2019, a little over 3 years under construction. So I think around 3 to 3.5 years is a safe bet for once Disney officially breaks ground, which I think will be later this year. That would put Piston Peak at a late 2028 opening, but I don't think it will be quite that fast, because there's a lot of new lands opening at Disney World the second half of this decade. That brings me to my bold prediction that's guaranteed to be true or your money back. What I think Disney World's new attraction slate will be each year through 2030. It's a big prediction. So like how Disney spread the opening of Pandora, Toy Story Land, and Galaxy's Edge across 3 years, I think they'll spread out the openings of these big expansions so there's a big event to draw guests in each year. None of the big expansions are opening in 2026, but we do know that Muppet Rock'n' Roller Coaster will debut that year. Tropical Americas and Animal Kingdom with Indiana Jones and Encanto is already announced for 2027. Muppet Vision just closed, so construction will start very soon for Monstropolis at Hollywood Studios, and that land will use a lot of existing structures, and then add the Dora roller coaster building to the back of the land. So I feel like that construction timeline will be shorter than Piston Peak. Nothing's been announced yet, but 2028 feels like a good bet for Monsters Inc. So following my logic, that puts Piston Peak opening in 2029, with the construction taking a little over 3.5 years. And I think Villains Land will open in 2030, based on nothing but my gut, and that the development for that land seems to be in earlier stages based on what Disney has shared so far. So once we get to 2027, Disney World will kick things into overdrive. Between this, all the new expansions at Disneyland, and the opening of Epic Universe, this is a great time to be a theme park fan. Also, in case you missed it, I have a massive deep dive on my reaction to visiting Epic Universe on my channel, so check that out if you haven't. And stay tuned for more on the future of Disney parks. This has been James from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see ya in the future.